The reason why box squats are so effective in my eyes is that there's a few reasons actually. So the first reason is it breaks up the eccentric concentric portions of the lift. So you go all the way down, you stop, you completely sit on the box, and you break that connection between these two phases. And what that makes you do is generate power from the beginning. So there's no potential energy, there's no elastic energy stored during that eccentric phase no longer. You sit down, you basically relax, and you dissipate a lot of that energy, and then you have to, generate that force from ground up. So that's the first reason why box squats are so effective. It breaks that eccentric concentric connection. And the second reason why I think that they're really effective is because we are generally working with box heights which are around that universal sticking point. So that parallel, maybe a few inches below, maybe a few inches above, that's where everyone kind of misses the squat most of the time. Very few people get stapled at the bottom, in the squat, unless they're using too heavy of a weight. Like if I was to unrack 250 right now, I could probably dive bomb it all the way down, and then I wouldn't be able to initiate any power because it's too heavy. So if you're selecting a decent weight and a correct weight for yourself, you're probably going to fail around that 2 or 3 inches above or below the parallel level. And the reason for that is because of that's where the femurs, that's where the biomechanics are least advantageous to us. So we are completely removing the elastic energy from our body in a box squat, and we are stopping and removing that elastic energy in the universal sticking point. And so that makes the lift quite difficult. And this is something that I've struggled with in the last 10 or 12 days that I've been experimenting with these box squats, is that I'm using way less weight than I usually could in a free squat. Louis Simmons says around 10 or 15% weaker you are in the box squat if you're doing it properly. Now, if you are using a super high box squat, kind of like the stuff that I was doing with the pin squats, and you're freaking, quarter squatting that thing or whatever, okay, you could probably load a lot of that. And you might want to do that if you're interested in, those qualities that particular exercise gets you. So I've seen a whole bunch of videos, about guys who are interested in getting their vertical leap higher, basketball dunkers, all that stuff, and they've talked about super high box squats. Basically the same type of mentality, the same type of benefits that you would experience using a really high pin squat. You are kind of mimicking, it's very specific to that jumping hip and knee angle. When we jump to, jump up, grab a rebound, or go for a dunk or whatever, we never go down to parallel and jump. It's always a quarter squat. And the reason for that is because, we are stronger in the quarter squat and we can generate more power. Whereas if you go all the way to the ATG, a lot of that range of motion, we are not going to be able to propel that into the upward motion. Now, there's a lot of debates about whether these people who are interested in sprinting, running, dunking, all that, should they be doing ATG squats? In my opinion, yes, you should be doing ATG squats because, man, if you are doing quarter squats on the box or a pin or whatever the case might be, you have to be very, very careful about your knees. Free quarter squats you should never do because that's going to grind your joints down into dust. On a box and a pin, it's much, much better. So I would do that. Like if I was still playing basketball, I'd probably mess around with that kind of stuff. But I would never do free quarter squats. Or even for that matter, parallel squats. Free. Nah, that's not for me. If I wanted to do free squats, I would do ATG squats because of that preservation. Not just preservation, but strengthening those ligaments and tendons. Because if you think about what jumping and running quickly, what it all really means is that not only do you need to have a lot of power, a lot of strength in the muscles, but you also need those tendons and ligaments to be strong as well. We talked about Achilles tendons in the past, how much of a rubber band this thing is. I've talked about my experiences playing basketball with some of these African fellas who have their Achilles is basically more than half of their lower leg, man. Like it's huge. And so when they're running, it's almost like they're bouncing on these rubber bands. Whereas my Achilles is nowhere near that length. And so maybe that could be one explanation why I don't have a 50-inch vertical leap or whatever. Even though I have a lot more muscle than some of these guys, I just couldn't, jump or run that quickly. I was pretty quick on my first step and second step or whatever. but there's no way I could elevate like that. So box squats are great, and they're great for that. But like I mentioned yesterday, you still got to be doing the ATG stuff, man, if you really want to have healthy knees. You know, I spent 10 days without doing ATG squats, and it felt funny, man. You know, yesterday I started off with the ATG squats, and I felt funny. Finished off with box squats. Today I decided to do box squats first. I planned to do 5x5 with 140. Got through that, and then I finished off with some ATG squats. I'm planning to do that every single day. Just ATG squats every single day. Make sure that I have healthy joints. It seems right now, you know, this way. It seems box squats are really good for my hips, and ATG squats are really good for my knees. That's kind of how I've concluded it in my head. If you go ahead and just do ATG squats all the time with heavy weight, if you're me, I don't know, you could be different. If you're me, you end up with some sort of hip pain, especially if you push the volume. So I've always kind of been hesitant to push the volume because every time I do, I seem to hurt my hip. I've learned in the past that I need to do some, you know, pulling volume and all that to kind of balance it out. But when I do box squats, I feel like box squats are addressing what pulling addresses for me when it comes to the hips. So box squats for the hips, ATG squats for knees, and then you have a pretty healthy lower body and you can smash the volume. That's kind of how I feel at the moment. On top of all of this, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if we take these 2 points about the breaking the concentric eccentric portion of the lifts and pausing at the most difficult, the universal point of a lift, if those two things, if those two methods are really that effective, why don't I apply that to the bench press and to the upper body? And today I tried to do that. Today I went and tried to do pin presses or bench pin presses. So the way I messed around with the pins for a little while, but eventually I settled on what did I settle them on? 5 inches off the chest. Now I don't know if that is a proper, you know, way to go about it or whatever. Basically what I was aiming for is to have a somewhat a right angle at the elbow. You know, something like a 90-degree angle at the elbow, because I know that angle is kind of like the 90-degree knee angle, that universal squatting sticking point. You know, it's all geometry, it's all maths, it's all physics at the end of the day. The reason why we stop at 90 degrees elbow or knee joint, that's where the hardest point is purely biomechanics. This is where the forces are, the levers are, the moment arms are the longest. And this is where we kind of struggle and fail most of our lifts. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, so with box squats, I'm coming to a stop at the worst possible point and generating power there. Why don't I do that with the bench press as well? I tried it today. I worked up to 120, and I reckon I did 2 sets of 5 today on that. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so that's pretty much what I can normally do. Oh man, maybe I can't do right now. Maybe I'm a little bit stronger on the pin presses than I am to normal benching, which is an interesting difference because with the squats, I'm easily much weaker in the box squats than I am with the normal squatting. So I've kind of tried to use the same method for the upper body, and I feel like I'm stronger in the pin presses. I don't know whether that's normal or not, but that's been my experience. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I should do a different height or something. But right now, the pin presses feel like I'm stronger, which is kind of weird, right? Because when I fail my bench presses, that's where I fail. Yet I'm managing to generate all right power. So I'm confused by that. But it felt all right. It felt all right, although, you know, as I was doing them, I thought, man, my shoulders are copping it big time right now. It's just an awkward position to stop and push off of. So there's something to kind of keep an eye on as I move forward with this. If I continue to mess around with the bench pin squats, pin presses, just to make sure that the joints are going to be healthy. You know, with box squats, nothing really hurts other than my knees feeling wonky when I go back to ATG squats. So the box squats of themselves, they feel pretty good. But with pin presses, I feel like, man, like if I did a few more sets, I reckon I'll be feeling my shoulder. It's just the anterior shoulder. I don't know why. But I reckon the more I do that, the more I will have to do something to balance that out. Whether it be, rows, pull-ups. Probably rows are probably more applicable in this instance. But it's just interesting how the two, sets of joints differ so much when it comes to the 90 degrees. Like, nothing hurts when I do box squats, but shoulders are kind of like, and I reckon my elbows, it's a funny thing. Actually, one of you guys mentioned this in the comments the other day, talking about, doing pin presses are that kind of similar, angles as the box squat, and you getting upset shoulders. And today, as I was doing it, I thought of you, and I thought, I can see how this can really flare up. With the upper body, I always come back to the same stuff, man. With the upper body, we're monkeys, man. We're very close to monkeys. So anything pulling restores you, anything pushing wrecks you. So if I was to do this, bench press workout over and over again, I reckon either the elbow or the shoulder or both would start getting upset. And so then I would need to supplement like maybe 1-to-2 ratio with pull-ups or rows or something like that to even everything out. Because right now, like, it feels good. Like I can do the weight and I feel like really deep into my triceps. It feels very deep into my triceps. But at the same time, I was feeling my chest as well. Man, sometimes I sit back and I think to myself, man, all those guys that I used to watch over the years do shitty form bench press, like not even getting to their chest, like freaking half repping that thing. Maybe they were doing something good. They didn't even realize it. They were obviously using more weight than normal. They normally could if they did full range of motion. So these bros would just, pile on a bit more weight than usual and just smash out these half benches. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you could put a fist in between the chest and the bar. A lot of these guys would say, oh, you want to keep the tension on your chest, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they've got a point, man. Maybe they've got a point. But maybe some of these guys are also injured now because of the shoulders and elbows and whatever else flares up when you do that. It's kind of like doing half squats. You can use a lot more weight. So this is where the so-called intelligent lifter shoots himself in the foot, because we're all too much thinking about it. Whereas the dumb guy who just wants to shift the most amount of weight in the gym, and he's using shocking freaking form, but he's hauling the shit up. Maybe he's getting better strength increases because he's doing that, because he's interested in just moving mass weight. Maybe he's stronger than the thinker lifter. But then the bottom line is, how long is that guy going to be lifting? If he doesn't understand anything about lifting, he doesn't understand anything about leverages and moment arms and, joint health, then okay, you might be stronger, but how long are you going to be doing that? I guess that's the thing to think about in this instance. But yeah, train your 90 degrees. I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, you could probably even do a pull-up in that sense. Okay, do pull-ups, go to 90 degrees and then go up. 90 degrees and up. 90 degrees and up. Bench pressing, pin presses. Go to 90 degrees in the elbow and go up. Box squats. I've selected a 10-inch box, which is quite low. But I could probably get away with like a 12 or a 14-inch box, something like that, which would have me kind of at parallel or thereabouts, and do that. I wonder if you just did that for a little while, how you'd go. Probably you'd get stronger, but I reckon you'd have achy joints. Now, this is somebody coming from somebody that's always done full range of motion. Squats, deadlifts, obviously conventional, and bench press off the chest, close grip, all that. So if I went into this type of realm on all of my movements, I'll probably get stronger and see a lot of benefits, purely because I've never trained this stuff before, right? Like I've never been there. And now I'm thinking about what Louis Simmons used to say. The whole conjugate system is about you chasing, rotating, looking for lifts that you suck at, and then putting 3 weeks into those lifts, and then rotating and looking for another lift that you suck at. So the whole training program, you're just literally searching and destroying weaknesses. That's all you're really doing. That's what conjugate is. It's like, I'm really good at conventional deadlift. Okay, and Louis will basically make you stop doing conventional deadlift. He'll have you do sumo with bands and chains and something like that. Really expose the shit out of you. What that does is it basically trains other muscles which are clearly being neglected. That's why you're freaking weak at those movements. And simply you can just do that. over and over and over again. And eventually, once you've addressed all the weaknesses, you come back to your strength and you realize the strength now is the weakness. And that's basically all we need to do. It's not fun sounding to do that, but it's probably the most effective way. The only thing I would add is, to keep some specificity in the mix. So like while you're searching and destroying all of these weaker movements, still have your, competition lift somewhere in there where you can like touch a 90% single or something like that. No volume, nothing, just so you can revisit the skill and keep smashing the weaknesses. That's something clearly you can do. I'm just thinking to myself whether how many people would be happy to do that. That kind of goes along the lines of strongman training as well. Like I feel like strongman training is literally like you are getting better at every single fiber of your body. Like when I look at a strongman competitor, they just look like a big ball of muscle. They're not specialists as such from my perspective. They can do everything. They can, deadlift with a flat back. They can pick up an atlas ball with a completely rounded back. They can press overhead. They can bench press. They can pull. They can run. They can haul things. They can carry things. It's like a complete athlete in a way. All I know is that I suck at these 90-degree lifts. I suck at sumos. In fact, today, like as I was deciding to kind of mess around with the bench press, I thought to myself, okay, do I go to the pin presses or do I just do a really wide bench press? Because a really wide bench press, I can tell you right now, like I'm pretty weak at that. I used to bench with a little bit more wider and I used to have shoulder pain, right shoulder pain all the time. And then I decided to bring my hands in and the pain went away. So that's something that I'm not really keen on doing, but I reckon if I kept the weight down and spent some time with a really, not super, super wide like you see some guys like in freaking powerlifting competitions moving the damn bar like an inch. Not that wide, but like kind of like index finger or something like that on the rings. Something like that's really wide for me. Or middle finger on the ring or something like that. That would challenge me in a different way and cause different range of motion and different, bar path probably, and that would probably carry over to my narrow. And back and forth you go, right? All right. I've got a name to mention in this video. Bisma Bakai is the latest name on the Patreon list, on the special thanks list. Now, Bisma has been a Patreon for like 8 months now. But just yesterday or this morning, he's upped his subscription, I guess, to Patreon, to the top tier, to the Feeling Poppy tier on Patreon. So Bisma, man, I thank you for the ongoing support and the increasing support that you are giving me. It means a lot to me, man. It really does. As I say to everyone that comes on, this stuff it's unreal to me that I have so many people backing me, so many people supporting me in this journey, these videos, my thoughts. I've always said, a lot of you guys have said to me, in the comments and on Instagram and asking me questions, why don't you monetize these videos? Why don't you, put, a bunch of ads in the videos? The reason for that is, man, I can't stand watching videos that are just completely smashed with adverts. These videos that I make, they are basically my thoughts. A lot of the time I actually close my eyes and I just think and talk to myself, right? So the last thing I would want for me to just watch my own video, but if I was on the other side and watching myself, I would hate to be in the middle of a train of thinking, in the middle of this line of thinking, and then boom, an ad comes on for freaking, Kmart or Bilo or Woolworths or something like that. It's like 15 seconds locked in ad talking about freaking teddy bears and lawnmowers, and I'm thinking about 90-degree freaking parallel, squats, and I'm thinking about body bags and all that. This guy's talking about lawnmowers. I can't do that. That would literally ruin the experience for me. And it has ruined, and I've clicked off many videos which have done this to me. It's like a slap in the face, and I'm sitting there praying, and somebody just comes in and kings me. That's what I feel like. So I can't monetize the videos in that sense. I won't do it. It just feels wrong. I don't care. I'd rather go nursing freaking an extra shift than do that to these videos. I don't want to do that. So, but when you guys come on my Patreon and you support me like that, man, it's such a tap on the back. It's such a, encouraging feeling. So I just wanted to say to you, man, thank you, and thank you to everyone else on the special thanks list and also on Patreon. Everyone on Patreon, you guys are really appreciated. Appreciate all of you guys on Discord, Instagram, on YouTube comments. You guys are legends. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.